What's up, you guys? Welcome back to our podcast, where today we're going to talk about what makes a book a classic. Boom! 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 Boom!
Alright, Mr. Beast.
Shall we go around
And introduce ourselves?
Okay. Hey, I'm Victoria Cunningham.
What did you read?
Oh, I read Pride and Prejudice.
Wait, can you give like a little bit about what it's about?
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, Pride and Prejudice is about these two characters. So there's the Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy, who have to overcome their pride and prejudices of each other to find love. How about it?
My book was Their Eyes Were Watching God, and in the book, the main character is Janie Crawford. She's a light-skinned woman who's been subject to a lot of misogyny. Like, she goes through her life very under the strong control of men. So she has these 3 marriages. Most of them are really bad, but through each of them, she has to find herself and discover what it means to be independent and just.
Well, I'm Mr. Beast, and I'm reading Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka, which is about. It is about a man named Gregor Samsa, and he turns into a bug.
Oh, a bug?
And it's his.
What?
I know, right?
Wait, how did he turn into a bug? I'm so.
It's a metaphor. It just happened.
It's an allegorical work.
That's cool.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Big words. Big words.
I'm Emma, and I read The Scarlet Letter, and basically it's just about a woman, Hester Prynne, who has cheated on her husband with Reverend Dimmesdale, and she is punished by having to wear a scarlet letter on her chest, and also she's outcasted, and it's kind of just about her overcoming the punishment, and just kind of about kind of a comment on people and how they act and stuff. So
Wait, she cheated with the Reverend?
yeah.
What?
Whoa,
Yeah, that's crazy. And then he gives he's the one that gives her part of her punishment too.
What?
What?
Wait, he gets to stay Reverend?
He announces the punishment. No,
Right.
he's not, because he never says
sounds
what
like
happened. She
real
never
life.
admits who he is.
Oh.
He admits. Oh, okay, I won't spoil it, but
Okay, we got
you guys gotta read it.
Okay, I'm Gwen, and I read Lolita, which is a very controversial book about a man, Humbert the Terrible, who's pushing 40, and he falls crazy in love with 12-year-old Lolita, and so it's a cautionary tale about the dangers of pedophilia. And,
What?
Oh,
That's freaky.
freak Humbert.
Bro.
Written beautifully.
Yes. Did you read it?
I am.
I want
Love
to
I've
read
been
it.
reading it for 3 months.
Oh, really? Yeah, it took me a long time to read
Last
it.
time I went to Barnes & Noble, but they were sold out, so.
Oh, do they have classics?
They have a ton of classics, but the ones they used to be $2, now they're $11. Because everyone's buying classics.
Boom.
No,
Why? It's still cheaper than Barnes & Noble. But
Well, the fact that everybody's still buying classics kind of ties into the
Oh,
classic
yes.
course. Okay, Maria, go ahead.
yeah, go.
Oh, okay. So I'm Maria, and I read The Handmaid's Tale. It's basically this dystopian story about the U.S. after some sort of war and environmental tragedy, and basically women are seen as objects for procreation.
What?
And they are not allowed to read, write, basically don't have any liberties in their life, and it's sort of a cautionary tale of how quickly rights can be taken away, especially because the book was written in the 1980s at a time where a lot of steps forward were being taken for women, and there was a lot of progress. It was kind of well, this is great that we're getting all these rights, but be careful because you never know what could happen and how fast they could be taken.
My name's Amy, and I read Call of the Wild, and it's about a dog, and he was living a pretty nice life, and then he got kidnapped, and then he had to go to the Yukon and be a sled dog, and then it just kind of the theme of the book is the transformation and the contrast of wilderness versus civilization and survival of the fittest, and then it's also really a naturalism kind of writing style. So yeah.
I like that.
So Me and Alejandra both just wanted to kind of.
Bruh.
Again.
Alejandra and I just wanted to kind of give the definition. She has the definition of classic novel or classic
Yeah,
literature.
like just a general overview.
And I just have a definition of classic in just the word, so. Go ahead.
You should go first.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you go.
Okay, anyway. So, classic is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as a book, film, or song which is well known and considered to be of very high quality, setting standards for other books, etc.
So, definition of a classic novel is a work of literary significance that has withstood the test of time and remained popular years after its publication. It can represent a genre, writing style, or make a contribution to literature. Classic literature is recognized for its artistic merit, quality, and often groundbreaking nature.
And we also just kind of said that a classic piece of literature kind of comments on something bigger, like a bigger problem or society in general. So
Yeah. I also found that another thing about classic literature is that it touches on a lot of popular universal, themes. Universal themes like, let's see, love, morality, death, adversity, etc. That kind of stuff.
Like, I feel like you can see yourself in a lot of these characters in, like, some sort of way, even if it's not, like, directly applicable.
yeah.
And I feel like that's why they're so popular, because people can see themselves in that, or the subjects that they like.
Yeah, like it's
Yes.
like a timeless story. Like
That's
no
what
matter
I was
like
saying.
what
Because-
point society's in, you're always gonna be able to like relate or like resonate with the story that's telling.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
how many of your guys' books, like I think mine is the most modern. How many of your guys' books like were written in like the 1800s or like early 1900s?
I'm
Yeah.
sure mine was written in the 1800s.
Yeah, so like, and the fact that like we today are still reading them and we've been able to like all of us create like so many projects on them and like really relate to these characters. It is like they are like timeless stories. Like they like bridge generations. They don't, because you might read like another book from like the 1800s and it's like it makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
But these, I don't know. Do you get what I'm trying to
No,
say?
yeah, I
Yeah,
get what you mean. Like,
Transcends the like
Yeah.
the time and you know.
and I feel like with every new generation, there's a point where like a surge happens where everybody's like, you have to read these classical books because like it comments exactly on what we're going through in our lives right now, and so everybody's always found a way to relate to some of the books.
Yeah, bring it back.
Kind of like how like history repeats itself.
Mhm.
And
Right.
so like the commentary made in these books applies so many different times, and like
Yeah.
it's like it might not always be as groundbreaking as it was when it first came out, but a lot of times this commentary is still like really applicable and like really astonishing.
And I feel like with the Handmaid's Tale especially, like it's people will read that. Like I read it and like I was like, oh my gosh, this could literally happen in our society right now.
Yeah,
Like-
like you would have no idea it was written 40
Yeah.
years ago. It could have been written like yesterday.
Yeah.
And like also, I don't know. This is like one of the questions for like one of the earlier podcasts, but it was like how society viewed the book, like right away and like now, and like for my book at least, like they like really liked it at first, and then they like he had like really communist views or like Marxism, whatever that is.
Who did? The author.
Yeah, Jack London, and so like people started like not really
They
wanting.
canceled him?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so people like started not really wanting to read the books, and like I think like there's like with the Nazis they like banned the book, but like now it's like still considered a classic. So like I feel like it doesn't always stay consistent. Maybe.
Wait, when was it written?
I think it was 1903.
Oh,
So, like,
dang.
your
I
book
would have thought
kind
it
of,
was.
When Their Eyes Were Watching God was published, it was not that popular. They accused Hearst of like pandering to like a white audience because she wrote in like a black Southern vernacular, and it wasn't like she died in an unmarked grave. Like she wasn't well like renowned in her time, and it wasn't until like Alice Walker like found her grave and like wrote this book about her that people were like, okay, like maybe she's something like worth reading.
So it's kind of like these books like overcame a lot of like criticism and I don't know, people just like going against them.
I think also a lot of these books are definitely like foundations of other books.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
set,
They
like a
inspire.
very good like example for other books, like with the
Yeah.
quality and the subject matter and just like the themes that a lot of them like were themes that hadn't really been touched on in the time they were written. They were like taboo topics.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
that's with most classics. Like, I feel like they have withstood time because at the time they were released, they were so controversial. A lot of them, I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them were so controversial at the time that it's just like had such a big impact on society in that way. Like everybody's just like, look at this book. Like people did not like this at the time.
Yeah, because I think people are like drawn to controversial topics because like it's just interesting because it's like what's going on? I need to figure out like this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of our books you can see like referenced in modern media.
Yeah, for sure.
Like especially like Lolita, like that's in a bunch of like there's even like Lolita style, which
Yeah.
is insane
Well,
and twisted.
the Lolita
but,
style,
like,
I think it's like it's not connected to the book. It's
Oh,
like a
really?
different subculture in
Oh.
itself.
oopsies.
No, it's fine. My grandpa, like, he was texting me one day. He was like, I saw this girl talking about Lolita style. It looks like they got a competition on Instagram. I was like, what? I was like, no, like, it's a different thing.
Well,
And he was like,
Lana
okay.
Del Rey have
Well,
a
yes.
song Lolita.
Lana,
Yeah.
she's referenced lots of, like, Lolita things in her music and, like, in
So
her
it probably
style.
Probably came from Lana Del Rey, the style part.
Yeah, I think she definitely, like, popularized it. Like, it's very abundant on, like, Tumblr and those types of medias. Like,
Yeah.
it became kind of its own, like, romanticized aesthetic, which is an
Interesting.
issue.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Wow.
and I think like that also with like the Scarlet Letter, that comes into play a lot. Like I see like that referenced a lot in a lot of modern media, and it's
Like
like if you
Easy
hadn't
A.
read
Easy
this
A.
book- yes, Easy A.
So good.
And then there's like modern remakes of Pride and Prejudice too.
Mhm.
Like, isn't it Clueless? Or is that Emma?
That
I
was
don't
Emma,
know.
I think. That was
Oh,
Emma.
my bad.
Emma,
Anyways. But there's like so many. I feel like they're just like even referenced like in passing. Like there's things that like I read and I wouldn't have understood until like after I read 1984 or something like that.
Yeah.
Because like people just like make comments on it and
Oh.
they become kind of like common knowledge. Like
Right.
common.
Have you guys read that one book by H.G. Wells? I forgot what it's called, but it's like The
I don't
Meaning
know.
of Life is 42.
Oh.
Or like, wait,
Oh,
right?
The
Do you guys know?
Publisher?
Yeah, I
H.G.
know. I think there's
Wells?
it's another one. Meaning of Life is.
I only know 2 books by him.
Yeah, but like that's like I always like
That's
heard
old.
that and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Mm.
But like I always heard that and then like I didn't know what it meant until like I read that book. So like that was like
Yeah.
something that was referenced a lot. Sorry, that was kind of off.
No,
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 it's
no.
fine.
Give it to me.
Yeah.
That's like a great example.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel
Another
like-
classic.
It's not our classic, but it's still a classic.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I feel like
Beautiful.
some people like with like the Easy A movie based off of the Scarlet Letter, like sometimes I know what I'm trying to say, but I'm not gonna say it very well.
No, it's fine.
It's like people make adaptions of stuff that kind of completely takes away from the original meaning
For
of
sure,
the
yes.
classic. Like especially the adaptation of the Scarlet Letter, the movie adaptation that I watched, it was like it turned it into a romantic like movie. It had like a happy
true.
ending and stuff, and it was not meant to be that way. It was meant to be a comment on just society and stuff. It was not meant to be
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I think it makes it like kind of hard to understand like the points that classics are trying to get across if you don't actually read the book.
Yeah.
You know
Right,
what I mean?
right.
Which is like that's what makes them kind of different than like other books. And like if you watch the Harry Potter movie versus reading Harry Potter, it's not going to be that different. You're still going to get the point of it, you know. But like if you watch the Scarlet Letter or versus reading the Scarlet Letter, you're going to have 2 totally different understandings.
Yeah.
They focus on completely different viewpoints
Yes.
of the novel.
Yeah, because it's also like movies. I feel like water things down a whole lot,
Oh,
especially like because all of our books are kind of older, and like movies didn't become very, they didn't want to explore those controversial topics as much. So like there are 2 different adaptations of Lolita, but like the first one in the '60s, I believe, it was like so watered down, like and it kind of took away like the horror and like the shock value, which like
Because they had to make it, for the audience.
Exactly.
And they had to make money somehow.
right.
If it's a classic, it shouldn't have to be made for a specific audience. A classic's meant to be for like everybody to read and be like, oh my gosh, this is what is actually happening, and this is like something that needs to be talked about.
And I think also, especially with your book, Gwen, the like ethics of making some movies comes into play, because like I know a little bit about some of those things, like how it's like it's really hard not to make a movie about Lolita without like exploiting a kid,
Right.
right? which is really hard to do. But if it's a book in the book form, it's just words on a page, you know. So I think that's why classic books are usually a lot more
Like
tough and
Yeah.
like gritty
Yeah,
than the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like, say maybe not with Lolita, but with some of the other books, you could be able to make. You should make the movie in the way the book was written, because it could be even more like impactful to see it actually happening
Yeah.
instead of just reading about it. Because a lot of people, some people, when they read, they don't actually like picture things in their head, and I feel like
you have like the opportunity to like reach such a wider audience, because not everyone wants to sit down and take the time to read a book, and you kind of waste that opportunity by like watering down a lot of the themes or messaging.
And then like a lot of people like just don't understand the point of the book, and so then like they go on with like this misunderstanding, and like if I had just watched the 1990 production of Handmaid's Tale, I would have been like, that book is stupid. Like, why is that a classic?
Right,
You
like
know what I
the
mean?
movie, it's like nothing really sets it apart from other movies. Just comes off like, oh, it's a woman like discovering herself. She has the love of her life. It's so like pretty. But
Yeah.
like the novel gets into like so much of like very like raw. It's like none of it's like sugar coated. Like you see her at like her lowest, and like people just being awful to each other.
Yeah, that movie definitely didn't do the book a lot of justice, because it was like a Disney movie, so it was like set for kids and very like, it took away from a lot of like the harsh like violence and survivalness part of it.
Yeah, that bothered me.
Yeah. And it was like, yeah, sorry, what were you saying?
Oh no, sorry. I think that's another reason why they could be called classics, is because they're too controversial to be made into a movie. Like just straight up like what the book is about. Like
Thank you.
Okay, well, that's my
Who is that a York?
Does anyone else want some York? Can we split it? Okay. That is really big.
Back to what you were saying, like I feel like that's a big reason why a lot of our books were banned. Like mine explores like the sexuality of a black woman, and I don't think that's very like.
So nice.
Yeah. Especially in like a male like dominated world, like especially white men too. You don't want to like propagate this like, oh, look at this like diverse woman like being herself.
Yeah, because you don't want to make the masses uncomfortable. God forbid.
oh no.
Yeah, I think like a lot of classics do make people uncomfortable. That's like
Yeah.
another like
That's
defining
the
thing about
allure
them.
about them, I feel.
Yeah, because it's not just like you know those books that you find in like a used bookstore, and they like have like, it's like Amish romance, and like you know what I'm talking about. It's like that's not making anyone feel uncomfortable. Like it's like they have such like deeper meaning, and like they're kind of like meant to make you squirm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, my book is not really like that at all.
Oh really?
I mean, it's a romance.
Oh.
But I mean, it does touch. It doesn't completely touch on the subjects like straight out, but you know, just of like the male-dominated, oh my gosh, society, and how like social status of like your family, and you know how much money you make, it really impacts like your overall. Why can I not talk? Oh my gosh.
Like place in society, or like,
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Do you think?
can't-
Yeah.
I feel like with Pride and Prejudice, like obviously it still has themes that could relate to today, but I feel like it's more of a classic in the sense that you can see what it was like back when it was written, and
that's
also
what I
like
loved about it. Is,
like people love a romance novel
It's
too.
like a time capsule.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the characters, they're so well written, and like the dialogue and the way that Austen wrote it was just so. It was funny. It was witty, and like it's still.
Made some points. Like,
Yes, it made points, and it still relates to today as well, which is.
Do you think like when people were reading it at the time,
Are you
The-
joking?
This looks rock hard.
You need a Heimlich.
Oh.
I wanted the sour
Feel
part.
it.
No, mine was the opposite. Mine is so chewy and it's a Jolly Rancher.
Oh.
Really?
Oh, wait, give me.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, I ate
but
it though. I kind of
you think
eat
like
that.
when people read it at the time, it made them like a little uncomfortable?
Oh no, when
No?
it first came out, it was really popular.
Wow.
It just Jane Austen didn't like she published it anonymously because women weren't
Yeah.
seen to be writers.
Yeah.
So, but it was popular then, and it still is super popular now. And they referenced it in so many like newer like stories and stuff.
What? Oh, sorry. Did you have something to add? No. What do you guys think was your book's like enduring legacy?
Legacy.
Oh, I think mine, like what
the
did
last
it leave behind, like the impact. I think mine, like kind of, I don't know, like the impact it had is, it's kind of like a warning. So a lot of people, like, oh my gosh, it's kind of hard. The impact it had, like, I think it kind of opened a lot of people's eyes to like how dangerous it is for women and like how scary it is for women at times, you know, and like how kind of like blind we can be.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And like
And how quickly something can just happen.
Yeah.
Like how, because like also, like, it's not my book, but I've read it, how in it they're like talking about how the government kind of slowly implemented everything and like they made them think like, no, it's okay, we're gonna go back to the regular soon. And then by the time everybody realized what was happening, it was already too late. Like,
so yeah, I think like it kind of opened people's eyes and like had to make people more aware.
Yeah.
I think like maybe like an interpretation of my book that it could be is like not to be too comfortable in life for the point that you lose like your natural like connections and like instincts.
Oh, like Buck on the estate or something.
Yeah.
He was real comfortable.
Yeah, we're like it gets to the point where like we're so comfortable in life that we don't like seek adventure, like new opportunities. So I don't know, maybe
Kind of like leave your comfort zone.
yeah. Maybe that was like a way to interpret my book.
Yeah. Mine is more like don't judge people quickly. You know, of course, with Elizabeth and her prejudice of Darcy, I think it's just, yeah.
That
Don't
makes
judge
sense.
people. Don't judge a book by its cover, guys.
Boom.
I think that Metamorphosis it's about a guy turning into a bug, right? But it's also like criticism of capitalism and how a labor-based world. Are you laughing at me?
No,
Did you not just see what she was doing?
No, I did not. I was locked in.
You'll see it later.
Right.
I'll
Okay,
be
go ahead.
editing this. You might not. You'll be able to tell. But so yeah, Metamorphosis is very much so criticism on capitalism and like kind of like hey, people are dying. This world is like dying. We're all gonna like this is gonna kill people and turn them into bugs.
Oh.
You know, it's and the message is conveyed very well. I think it's very beautifully done. Yeah.
So kind of like everyone's going to turn into like just like an ant doing its job,
Yeah.
going back.
Oh. Isolated, existential. You know, the absurdity of the situation, the absurdity of life,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I feel like with the Scarlet Letter, I feel like the overall kind of lasting thing would be a big theme in it is civilization versus wilderness, like you like in Call of the Wild, and like I feel like it's just kind of he's saying that civilization is safe and the wilderness is like dangerous and stuff, and within civilization, yeah, it's safe, and I feel like the overall lasting theme would be like so I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, okay, cut that part.
Okay,
cut that part.
okay.
Cut that part. You go ahead.
I definitely think that Eyes of Watching God like paved the way for Black women to tell their stories. Like this book was written for the Harlem Renaissance, and at the time they didn't think this book was political enough, and there was just men not realizing that women's lives are inherently political and just like they were overlooked all the time. And Hurston like this this work like preserves like Black culture. Like she uses vernacular like AAVE throughout the entire novel. Like you read it as though like they're like talking this way, and she like preserves this like very like this moment in time like through her literature and the way she writes. Like she didn't listen to like people like you're pandering to a white audience by writing like that. She continued to write this way, and now like the book was kind of hard to read because of that. I had to use an audiobook, but you just like have this like appreciation that she was able to write this way and like make it so complex and like poetic. It was
Yeah, because I tried to read your book over the summer. I was like, hey, this sounds like a good book. I couldn't read it. Like it was really hard to understand.
Yeah, I think that like for Lolita, part of it was like the prose and like the beautiful writing style that Nabokov used. Like when I was first debating on what book I should do, I looked up, of course, on Reddit, like, is it a good book to read? And like pretty much all of the things that stood out to me was like, he's got great prose, like it's beautifully written. So like that's what really drew me in, and I think what drew a lot of people in. And then it's also like, you know, the message of like pedophilia and like kind of bringing it to the public eye and being like, guys, this is bad. Like, this is terrifying. Don't do this to kids. And I think like, you know, the controversies of it really made it stick, and like sometimes the message can get lost in the prose, which I don't know, it's just like it brings up good discussions.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, my book, like I don't really like to read, but like it made it like an enjoyable read. I mean, it was like a little rough for me to get started. It was like a pretty short book too, I guess, but it was a pretty good book, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, the Scarlet Letter was enjoyable. It was cool seeing how Hester kind of overcame the punishment, and she didn't let it define her. And I guess that could be kind of an overall message, not to let something that society does to you affect how you are and who you are and like what you do.
Live.
Yeah,
That's good. I like that.
Victoria.
I mean, the novel kind of also shows, you know how everyone can have a oh my gosh, like a bias of somebody. Like you meet someone and you get like a first impression of them, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's this awful person. They're so mean. They're so judgmental.
Or the opposite.
Or the opposite, of course. And then if you can get to know them better, and then you find out, oh, they're actually not that. And that's exactly what happened in the book. Elizabeth found out that Darcy wasn't this super egotistical guy, and, you know, actually found that he was very caring and thoughtful, and was,
That's
So it's kind of like don't judge a book from its cover.
don't judge a book by its cover.
I love
Oh,
that.
that's so, yeah.
I feel like mine is maybe more of like a more personal level of like self-discovery, like through Buck's transformation. I mean, like he had like the bond with John Thornton, but like it's very much him and like having to find his like instincts through the survival of the fittest.
Survival of the fittest.
Oh yeah, cause what's his name? Jack London. Like he had like the naturalism writing style, and that was like he was inspired by like Charles Darwin writing. So I think.
Any final thoughts?
I like bugs.
How do you know?
I like bugs.
it's just how a cigarette smells.
Okay, lady. Sure.
Yeah, I smoke a pack
We
a
caught
day.
you on camera.
I smoke a pack a day.
Okay.
Say
Wait, we need an outro.
Oh.
Mr. Beast.
Mr. Beast. Close it out, Mr. Beast.
Alright guys, that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and then hit the bell.
Wait.
Boom! And you have a chance to be featured in our next video.
What's the song?
Mr.
Beast
6000.
How many big Feastables?
Wait, big boom.
5 Feastables!
Five Feastables
Five
are.
Feastables. Buy. I like my cheese drippy bra. Buy that too.
Oh,
What's it like?
Lunchly.
With prime.
And how many booms do we get?
5 big
Ready?
booms.
Boom! 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 Boom!